gives me great pleasure to welcome back the one and only Scott Brown. How are you, Scott?
Good, thanks. How are you?
How's the body feeling?
Not too bad, considering after I'd finished, I had some serious DOMs until this is now Tuesday, so I had some DOMs for a few days. So yeah, that's the reason off now though. So I'm moving about pretty well. But
good man. It sounds like you got off lightly. So we're not going to tell anybody the result here. We're going to make them watch to the end to get the full experience of your Ramsay round. So let's start with the drive up. How were you feeling? What was going through your mind?
Yeah, so we left on Friday afternoon. I was going to be setting off at 10 o'clock at night, and to be honest, I'm a great sleeper. I could sleep anywhere. I could sleep on a clothesline, but I'd never had the best of sleeps on Thursday night, but I wasn't too bothered because I figured I would sleep going up there on Friday anyway in the car. But it wasn't the case. Excitement was kicking in, and we were driving up there. But I felt really, really, my muscles felt really soft and refreshed, kind of thing, and rested. So I felt good. But you're sitting. I knew the forecast was to clear up before we'd started on the Friday night. And they're sending up. I even put some pictures up on my story and stuff, and the weather was like really quite bad. It was like absolute torrential rain. We'd been driving through Glencoe, and I was looking at the mountains. I couldn't actually see the mountains because they were covered up in the rain and some overcast. So that was having a wee bit of doubt in my mind, but I knew that I was pretty much sure that it would clear up the time I started. So, but I felt good.
And you get there. What time did you arrive? What time were you planning on starting?
Yeah, we got there about 5 o'clock at night, and we were going to be starting at 10. So it gave us enough time. I had a tracker as well that was going to be following me, so it gave us enough time to meet up one of the girls, Helen, who was giving me the tracker. So we arranged to meet her at the restaurant in Glen Nevis. It's a Glen Nevis restaurant there. So we went there with my support driver, Chris. We went for something to eat in there, and then she came along. We got the tracker. We met some of the support crew as well, which was nice to see. We also met one of the other guys who, up until that point, I wasn't sure if he was doing the full thing, and he turned out he was doing the full thing. So we had a quick chat about that, and he was there. So it felt good that it was actually, this is it. This is really happening now, and the excitement was starting to build, so that was good.
And just before the start, because it's fair to say this has been in your mind for a long time, but this year we weren't particularly focused on this year. Everything was geared more towards running fast, putting down a fast marathon time, doing some of the faster Scottish ultras, more running based rather than so mountainous. So before you're beginning, is there any doubts in your mind about that kind of thing? Is your mind playing those nasty tricks on you, or?
No, I felt really good, and I think my training, every single time, apart from one session I'd been on the hills, I felt really good, felt really strong. I felt as if there was a good balance with the training and what I was doing through the week, then what I was doing on those long sessions at the weekends on the hills. So I was actually confident enough that I could really, if I worked hard, that I could pull it off, and that's what I was thinking I could. And I was, beforehand, so I wasn't too sure, but I knew that if I could, really work hard, there's a chance I could do it. So.
Okay, so you get to 10 o'clock on Friday night, was it, you started?
10 o'clock, yeah.
10 o'clock. Has the weather improved any by then?
Yeah. You could see the mountain. You could see the mountain ahead, and you could see up the track where I was going to be going and stuff. So it was really, really clearing up by then, and it was a nice heat. It was starting to turn into a nice evening.
Quite unusual for summertime in Scotland, at least.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really nice, and there was a kind of small gathering there with the support runners for each leg. They had all kind of turned up to see, even if they weren't starting with us, they just turned up to see us go. Also a couple other girls and guys who are thanked on social media for coming along just to see us go and be a part of it.
Okay, and the start, you chose to do Ben Nevis first rather than last. For those who don't know Scotland so well, Ben Nevis is Scotland's highest mountain. So It's nearly 1,400 metres climb is your first hit. So how did you feel going up that one? Everything is feeling good, or?
Yeah, so we started off and we had a guy called John Parkin. He was a support runner for, so it was me, myself and Pavel, the other guy, Polish guy who trained, did some training days with me. He was doing the full thing with me, and myself and him and a guy, John Parkin, had set off in leg one, and as we were climbing, we probably weren't that far off for the start, and John in the pace. So I think he'd realised, how much of a tough night it was going to be, like if he was going to be staying with us. But we'd put a lot of kind of preparation into it, so he quickly gave us a shout and gave me my tracker back, because he was carrying on the tracker for us on his shoulder. So he gave me that and says, "Listen, just crack on, and hopefully I can take a few shortcuts later on and catch you up." So we realised. I think initially we thought, oh, we've not got a support. It could, does it
broken
matter?
him already?
Yeah. So, and I think, but then after that, we just were. It was such a nice evening. We weren't wearing jackets, so we were just wearing t-shirts or long sleeved. I had a long sleeve wool t-shirt on, and it was such a nice evening that we then soon forgot about kind of John in a nice way. The fact that it felt good to be making good ground, and it felt good that our training was losing them. So when we arrived at the top of Ben Nevis, it was what a night. We got up to the top of that one, and probably just getting the first one under our belt felt good as well. We got there and there was like an inverted cloud underneath us, and the moon was up, and it was beautiful.
Fantastic.
So yeah, that was nice. Yeah.
And the guy Pavel you were with, he's quite well matched, like in terms of pace and things.
Yeah, well, at this point, I would say in training we've been well matched. I think so. I think we were well suited. Also, I would say, yeah, even on the start, in that first climb, I thought we were quite well matched as well for pace as well. So it was quite, felt as if it was comfortable, and we should have been together. So that was good.
Good. So you're at the top of the first mountain. You've got 23 to go.
Yeah.
How's that feeling? Is that in your mind? You're thinking.
It was good, and I think I just wanted to push on, and I didn't want to hang about too much. I think there's been times over training periods where you want to sit and take pictures and do this, and we took it in. And I'm always aware of, like, make sure you take in your surroundings and stuff like that, and try and remember as much as you can. But at the same time, you've got a 24-hour potential challenger ahead of you, so I just wanted to push on then.
So you push on into the night, and for me it's always interesting when you're running through the night, because like a lot of the races I've done, like European ultras and stuff, you start at maybe 11 at night or 12 at night or something, and very often for me, maybe at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. you begin to feel tired, not because you've been running, but because it's 2 or 3 in the morning. Normally you would be asleep. Yeah. So did any of that sink in?
No, not at all. I think, to be honest, like I did wonder that through the day, will I feel tired through the night? Will the full day being up all day, then starting at night time and not having any sleep, will that play a part in it later? But to be honest, I think we both handled that pretty well, and we both felt pretty much wide awake, and we, I think it was really. We made a way off of Ben Nevis and across the ridge onto the CMD and up onto there, and then come all the way down onto the third, and we were making good ground along, and we could look back and we couldn't see John, so I think we realised at that point he'd turned back, which we later found out he did. So at this point we'd a pretty much clear enough sky, so our head torches, I think that was good for our light that we had on our head. You know, our head torches, we could see pretty much well with our head torches, and yeah, it was going really, really well. So it wasn't until we got to about the sixth climb, we just were making our way up on the mountains, and we were heading towards the Grey Quarries, and there was a bit of cloud cover come in. It was a very low cloud, and it came over, and it just made visibility really hard. So we were looking for a track, the right track that we'd picked off it each time beforehand, pretty easy. But because of so there was so much cloud at this point, and also the head torch was kind of, so we were just taking our time, and then we were skipping down the side of the mountain. It was very heathery and stuff like that. My foot went down inside a hole, and I rolled my ankle pretty bad, my right ankle. So I just, at that very moment, I just kind of sunk, like internally sunk, and fell to the floor, like on my back. And I was just sat there for a minute, and I just didn't want to move. It was a mixture of worry. And I remember feeling like beads of sweat in my head, and it was just like thinking, what has just happened? Like, everything is just so perfect tonight. I remember saying to Pavel like a few times before that, this is made for us, this is perfect. And then next thing, like that,
just one misstep.
Yeah.
So that's a critical moment, because it's not only like physically were you able to get moving on the ankle quite quickly again, or did it pull you back for a bit of time?
Definitely pulled me back. We had that was number 6. We had another big climb, and then we had to come down and do one of the hills, Stop Ban. But for those next couple of climbs, it definitely slowed the pace, because not just the climbs, the descents, because I felt when I was coming down, I was just really glad that I could actually walk on it. Then I thought, if I can walk on it, I can run on it. When I was walking, it wasn't pain free, and it hampered my breathing as well. But I was thinking, as long as I'm on it, things will improve. And I just kept thinking to myself, like, you'll find a coping strategy to just move faster. So, but every now and again, because of the uneven ground, you're maybe moving away down the hills on the side of the hill. So I would roll on my ankle again, and it would hurt again, and just things like that. So I maybe lost us 5 minutes on each of the hills. On the next two, we'd probably been about 15 minutes up on the pace up until that point. But then before we made the first checkpoint, I had lost us that probably on each of the 5 minutes on each of the climbs, just through moving not quite as fast.
The thing with that is it's not even like physically, obviously it's a hindrance, it's painful and annoying, but it's psychologically, especially on that rough ground, you're always waiting for it to go again. Yeah,
I think that was it in a nutshell. What I kept thinking, it wasn't that it was the pain, it was more like it was a worry that I'd got so far, and all I was thinking is, I cannot not finish this. And if I go over it on it through stupidity and being reckless after injuring it now, then it could just stop me on my tracks right now. And if I was just thinking of a bad break or something like that, so I was just thinking, just be sort of sensible or semi-sensible. So it was definitely in the back of my mind.
And it's something that, like, you're describing quite a perfect night for a long time, but
yeah,
something like that just takes away. The fun is gone. It's survival after that.
Yeah, it was. It just changes things, because you were thinking, and it's probably typical with me. I think any time I do these big things, I always end up with some kind of niggle or some kind of. But it's just knowing that I can. I think my experience before, saying that you can come through this, you'll find a way of dealing with it. And I thought, as long as I can move on, we can get through it. So yeah, I just pushed on.
So you get to the first checkpoint. Do you get any kind of like ibuprofen or anything like that?
No, I took a painkiller. I took a painkiller when I get in there, and a paracetamol. We never had a support runner for the end of the first leg. We met then the support runner for leg 2, who I'd never actually met properly before. A guy Ross Coles, and he was a strong hill runner from the Lake District. He's based up in Glasgow, and he was a good guy, good egg. And he basically he says, listen, while you're on this, if you need any extra kit to be carried or anything like that, just let me know, because that's what I'm here for. And I says, well, I'm going to go lighter, because he's on that stage we'd already done quite a. It was less Monroes. It was only 3 Monroes in a big running section. So I thought, well, we'll maybe use them to. And I says, well, let's hope you have a good leg here, Ross, and winding them up, And so he took one of my a flask of mine, and he took a couple of bars and stuff like that. Enough, like I use baby formula pouches and stuff like that to go get the calories in nice and quick. So he took some of that stuff off me, maybe 4 or 5 pouches and a water bottle, and it just meant I was no carrying any kit, so that was nice. And he did the same for Pavel as well. And then we had the 10 minutes rest that we were going to have there, and then started heading up the hills onto the next section. So when we started, I wondered how I would start moving then, moving on to the next section, but we were making good ground. And I think, I don't believe we made any good time, but we never lost any good time either in that section.
So at this point, is it still night time at this point, or is the sun beginning to come up?
No, we got there at the end of the first checkpoint, bang on target. Even though I would have liked to have been up on target, I think we all would like that, but because of what had happened, we got there bang on, I think it was 7 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
So that meant that it took us 9 hours to do the 10 Monroes and get to the first hit. So I was happy with that, because I knew we were only off of my target that I put in, considering. But we also knew that we never had time to play with, so we had to make sure we never lost any time in the next section. So
is that playing in your mind again with you're on target, you've got a painful ankle? Is there doubts, or are you thinking we're still getting this done regardless?
I think at that point I'd realised that I had lost some time on the last couple of climbs of the first leg. So there was a tiny bit of doubt that I need to be very sensible, but I also knew that this next section was quite boggy on the foot. Out of the 3 sections, the second section and the middle section was definitely the most boggiest. So I had to be careful with that section. So I think that was in my mind, because I'd done it before. I thought, as long as I'm careful on my feet, if I can get to the third section, having no lost any time, I can maybe just grizz it and put my head down and get it done. So I think, I think that was. I knew that section 2, although there's not as many Monroes in it, it's definitely up there with one of the hardest sections. I think it's people just don't overlook it, and it's tougher than they think.
Just with the underfoot conditions.
Yeah, I think softer ground and these hills they're not really used as much as the Grey Corries and the Ben Nevis tracks and stuff. These are better tracks. These ones are kind of more unforgiving. They're up and down, and even the climb, it's like a cross heather, and there's no any paths. You've just got to take the best line. So yeah, it's
traditional hill running.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
And what was the plan with your nutrition? Did you have a strategy in place for each hour you're going to eat this, or how did it work?
Just making sure I'd got the calories in. I also know that usually usually when I've done these things, that when I start, I don't always want what I plan to have, and it's okay saying, yeah, I'm going to have that, but at the time, especially if you've nearly bonked with like going over on your ankle and you're not feeling the best. I felt quite sick after that, so you know that whatever I'm eating, as long as I'm eating, it's going to be important. So it's making sure that you don't go too long without eating. So I was trying to take one of those so when I was saying about the baby pouches, they were like fruits, and they were like fruit, like a smoothie type thing, and you just suck them and they're quite easily to get down. So I was taking one of those every climb, and then taking luckily enough, I'm an ambassador for Fuel 10K, so they send me loads of good stuff, and they were saying that, so I had things like they had cookies and also when I got to Fairset as well, my friend Chris had given me porridge. So it was 7 a.m, so I just whacked in the porridge and a wee shake as well. So just things like that, just to get.
Very nice, good traditional Scottish breakfast there at 7 a.m.
Exactly. I know.
So going further into the morning, how were the conditions early on in the day for Scottish summer, because it can be very changeable up there?
Yeah, I think again the weather you can for a morning, because in the second section was done between 7 a.m. into very early afternoon, and again it was a great morning for it. The weather was on all sides. We'd heard that it could get hot on the Saturday, but up until this point, we were still on the second part, and the weather was on. I think the weather was on side. I think the weather was great. It wasn't too hot, but it was it was nice. So I think everything was going well. Like I said, I was maybe not quite as fast as I would have been normally, but I don't think I was slowing them down too much. Maybe just a few minutes on the climbs, but we then made our way off the Benler Lap. That's the third climb on that second section. We made a way off of that, and then we had a long road section, so like along a track, and then it goes round past a lock and then all the way up towards Loch Ildamore. So there's a big long kind of running section there. So I was actually running a lot better than I thought I would be because of the foot. I thought, I don't know how I would be running there. I did wonder, but I was running well. I found in a straight line I could do that. And it's what you said right at the start. It was quite interesting because when you said, did you have any doubt about the fact your climbing ability and stuff like that? I actually, at this point, realised how much all the training we did months ago, with like training for like fast events, had come into play at this point, because I felt super strong on anything that was downhill that wasn't too rocky for that. Anything that was downhill or flats or just kind of the long trails, I felt really strong there. So I was having to kind of wait and hold up a bit, at these parts for the guys. So I knew that I was coming in at my own there, so I felt good.
That's good. That's because sometimes it can be difficult on something like this, that transition from hills to starting to run again. It can sometimes feel like quite unpleasant, but it's nice if that was your strength on the day. I felt I didn't expect to feel like that, like where downhills and flats would be my strength, but it was looking now as if that was, for whatever reason, on the day that's where my strength was lying, on the flats and the downhills. And I was probably struggling more on the climbs, which was, and also the kind of uneven ground. Your training, really, you were in good running shape this year, and when you were in lockdown, it wasn't like you were able to get to big hill days. I think from you deciding, let's do this Ramsay round to the date of doing it, it was only a couple of months of hill training that you actually had.
That's right, yeah. That's right.
quite a short turnaround for a Ramsay round.
Yeah. That's what was so kind of beautiful about it, because when you're sitting talking to my leg 2 teammate, and even the guy who was doing it with me, Pavel, and these guys, that's what they do. They're hill runners, and they talk about the rounds they've done, and this even the guy Ross, who he'd his local ones, the Bob Graham round and stuff like that, and the guys who were coming up to support me, this is what they do. And I'm sitting here thinking, well, like, I live in Ayrshire, and we have to travel to hills, and I get to do hill reps and stuff like that, but it's not quite the same.
It's different.
I don't see myself as a hill runner, but I see myself as I was just kind of punching above my weight for that, So I felt as if I was doing all right, considering the fact I just put in a good training load.
And for the hills, did you use poles at all, or no poles?
No poles until I met Ross, my support 2 runner, on the second leg, and I used them for that boggy section for the leg 2 after I got up those climbs, and then I gave him the poles and he put them away. Never used them again for the third. I think it's because leg 1 and leg 3 are dry. They're kind of big, kind of dry mountains. So I didn't really see the need for the poles because it was just climbs. But I felt I didn't really want to use them for that. I wanted to use them for the stability of in case I fell, especially having the kind of dodgy ankle in the middle part, So, but I was once I get through that part, then it get put away again. So
you get into the early afternoon. How many Monroes are down at this stage, and how many do you have to still to do?
Yeah. So we get to it's now 1 o'clock, and we're arriving in the leg Lochilder Moor, and the support runner Ross, he had run ahead. He says, "Listen, I'm just going to jog ahead and tell these guys that we are approaching." So he cracked on, and we got there, got some soup and a few other things when we got into there. Got some food in us. Met the leg 3 runners, which was a guy that was there to support Pavel, called Marcus. I think it was his cousin, so he was there. I don't think he was really a mountain runner or anything. He was just more a kind of hill walker and stuff, and he was quite keen and fresh. So he was going to join us. It was Jim Loudon. He was up. He's done Ramsay's before, so he was up to help out. And there was another guy as well, Chris. It's his friend, and he was up to lend a hand as well. So we quickly met up and had a chat, got a picture taken by the lock. And like I say, I met my support, my feeder, Chris as well. He was there, so he was there. Gave me something to eat as well, and we met up. Then 10 minutes later, we were away again. We knew that we were on target, but we had to really. This is where it was going to make or break us on that last section.
Okay.
So at that point, how did I feel? I actually felt pretty good. I'd had 10 minutes off. I met new guys, and I knew that we were on the last section. And when memory had served me right with training, I'd always felt good in the motors. So I think looking ahead, thinking, right, this is the last section. I thought, we're on target. We're not behind, we're not ahead, but we're on target, and I feel good for this. So I was up for it. Pavel, he was sitting there across from me, and I'm looking at him. I said, "How do you feel?" And he says, "I think you tried to break me on that running section there." And I was like, no. I said, "I'm just feeling good." And so he felt good. I think he felt pretty good as well. And we soon got up, and then we started making our way up the first climb in the last section. The guy Chris, who was the support runner, and Jim, they sort of took the pace and took navigation on the front, like most support runners do, and we just kind of followed on and tagged on behind. So
that's good, because you're not stressing about navigation or anything. You've tired enough at that stage.
Yeah, I think the day we had, I don't think there would have been an issue really too much about the navigation, but it's more about you're still thinking. Even you'll know what I mean, but it's just like you're still having to think a lot when you're always looking at either where you're going next. But these guys are taking that awful mind, so we had to just put one foot in front of the other and just no stop, just keep going. So that's good.
How many Monroes did you still have to go in that last section?
Yes. So there's 11 Monroes, so that we had 11 of these climbs. The first one being probably, in my head, the toughest, because you come off from the lock all the way up to the top. Once you're up there, you've got a couple of cheeky climbs, but most of them you're higher up, so you're not coming all the way back down again.
Okay.
So I found that once we got back to the first major climb, then it was all sort of in my head. It was all plain sailing. But so I just kept telling myself, get up to the top and everything's going to be good. So,
and as the day is ticking on, are you still on target all of the time? Are you?
Well, I think we are. I remember asking a couple of times early on, saying how are we for time, but I don't know if it was on purpose, but I don't remember getting a real good answer, and it was like this, this kind of thing. I think we're okay. I think we're okay, and I'm going right. And maybe I should have been thinking more for myself at that point, but I was probably leaning because we're taking the navigation, leaning for answers too much in others. So, and I was probably just head up and wanting to just follow on. So, what they were doing is the support guys were great. They kept chatting to us, and we were just listening and telling us jokes and stuff like that, and making sure we had food every now and again, just saying like eat something else. So they were brilliant. And full of knowledgeable facts as well that I didn't know about. So I think now and again I was looking at them and thinking they're upping the pace a wee bit, so I think if we were starting to kind of fall off the pace a bit, they were trying to push the pace again, so that was quite good. But what I did notice now even more so was it was so hot at this point in the day, because we're now like a couple of climbs into this in the middle of the afternoon, so it was like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and the heat was just roasting. And I sometimes pretend that I'm the ginger Mexican, but I didn't feel like a ginger Mexican up there. I felt like the ginger Scotsman. I was roasting up. I was just felt red hot, and it would have been great to have just a wee escape for the heat, but it was there was nowhere to hide, and the sun was up. So I think we were really going through a lot of water, and I knew that we had to just try and keep the hydration levels up. But you were also aware that you weren't carrying loads of water, so you're not trying to go through it too quickly either. I think we were doing okay pace-wise until we were maybe kind of 4 or 5 in, and then I noticed that one of the support guys, Jim, was starting to push ahead with Pavel. So what would happen is I was maybe pushing on in the descents, and Pavel was struggling on the descents, and then we would wait a bit, and then we'd start climbing together. And then Pavel was stronger on the climbs. He was definitely, what I noticed is on the day, that he was definitely stronger than me on the climbs, and he was starting to push forward. So I think after one of these, at the next, we went over the top of one of them, and I think we had maybe about four left or something, 4 or 5 left. And at this point, I noticed that this time when they got to the top, they hadn't waited and started pushing off fairly quickly off the top. So I was feeling kind of sorry for myself for a couple of minutes and really trying to suck it up. I was finding it hard to breathe. I don't know if it was the temperature, but I was really kind of having a moment to myself, asking questions, and I was struggling, and I knew I had to get something. I gave the guy Chris that was left with me. There was 2 support runners, and the guy Marcus, the other guy that I was telling you about, that's Pavel's cousin, he had dropped off at this point. He'd found it too hard and dropped off. So it was really the only 4 of us, and Pavel and Jim had moved on. So when Chris stopped and I shouted him, I said, how come they pushed on? And he says, oh, they're away. And I says, what do you mean they're away? And he says, I don't think they think you're going to make it. And I says, they don't think I'm going to make it. And they say, initially I was kind of angry, and I was thinking, what? They've left me. And then he says, yeah, I think they're just going to crack on now. And I says, do you think I'm going to make it? And he's gone, and he never gave me an answer. So at that point I said, right, that's it. So I took my top off because I was really quite warm. I took my top off and I had a hat on it, like a cap. I took that off, and that was it. I just says, right, I need to get running here. And I knew that I had to find 2 gears, because I thought to myself, I'd sort of beforehand I'd said to my dad, I'm going to do this race for you, because I knew it was tough. And I thought, there's no way I can do this, finish this, but dedicate it to my dad, and he's like, and even he's like, you better do well in this thing, so that was one thing. And the second thing, I was thinking, I've spent weeks and a lot of petrol money coming up to Fort William to do recce's and stuff like that. There's no way I can come up and do this again. And so at that point, it was probably the best thing you could ever say to me, because I just kicked 2 gears, and that was it. I just started motoring. They must have been about maybe half an hour in front of me, and I just started chasing them down. We were now. I then lost my support runner, Chris, the guy who was, I didn't know at that point, but he was quite struggling with pace, so he was happy to stay back with me.
And then you abandoned him?
Unfortunately, he says, listen, you're just going to have to go. He says, so you're going to have to push on, because if you're going to make it, you're going to have to go, and I can't keep up. So I carried on. I could see him coming behind, but it wasn't just quite. So there was a couple of times he could just miss one of the climbs. There's 2 out and backs. So on the Ring of Steel, so he missed those 2 while I'd done them. And when I was going across the Devil's Ridge, the guys who were in front of me, Pavel and that, they were coming off the top of it, and they had to come back past me. So I was just about to approach that climb, and they were coming down it. So we had a chat then, and they apologised. They said, listen, we're really sorry, but we didn't think you had that in you. They said, where did that come from? And I said, listen, there was no way I was quitting. And the guy Jim, he says, do you know something? I'm going to tell you something. I told him, I guarantee that guy comes back, because he just looks like he's got that kind of mentality where if somebody tells him that he's not going to make it, he'll crack on again. So I don't know if he was just telling me that, or if but
tried to appease you.
I believe him when he says it, but it doesn't matter, because the way I seen it is, like I'd said before to you, that when I first found out that they decided to push on, I think initially the first thought was, I can't believe they've left, but straight away after that I thought the guy Pavel had supported maybe 10 Ramsay's Round attempts for like hill runners, and he supported all these guys to do it, but never had the chance to do it himself, so he deserved that go himself. So I wasn't actually bothered at that point. I thought, he deserved it, and if it meant that I might have held him back, then I was glad that they'd left. So I kind of worked out that I was now maybe 20 minutes behind, and no the full about 30. So we had 2 more climbs to go, and I got to the bottom of, before we did Stop Ban, I got to the bottom. There's like a watering area where you can get a drink, and there was one of the girls, Helen, and the guy Marcus was there, who dropped out earlier, and the guy Chris. They were there, and they gave me a drink, and they asked me if I wanted it. I think I took one of these wee kind of energy sweeties as well, maybe even 2 of them, I don't know.
High caffeine, that kind of thing.
1 or 2 of these. Yeah. I took one of these, and that was me. I knew that I just really had to. I had 3 hours at that point, and I thought it was back in my hands, where I thought, I've got 3 hours, only 2 climbs in a big descent all the way to Glen Nevis. So I thought, as long as I don't stop or feel sorry for myself, I can do this. So by the time I got to the top of the last climb, I was probably about I knew I was probably about just under or just over the 15 minutes behind him or something, from what I'd heard. And then I just made my way down there and started pushing on. And when I got onto the forest track after the climb, I just did a long running section. Yeah, and I just kept going and pushed on hard there and finished. I think it was like 12 minutes behind them or something in the end. So
you made up good
so I
ground.
caught a lot of time. I caught about over 20 minutes in the last couple hours.
So in total, it was what, 23 and a half hours?
23 hours 30. That's how I come in on the line. I had to finish and start and finish at the youth hostel, and I come in right on back in 23 and a half hours.
So you had
it was
30
amazing.
minutes to spare?
30 minutes to spare.
Good man.
Yeah.
How does it feel, that last kilometre?
Unreal. It was amazing. It does feel like a long way though. You know, like when you're running along the road there, you cut through the trees. There's a couple of wee gaps where you can take a shortcut, because it adds a wee bit of time if you don't take the shortcut onto the road. So you just got to make sure the lines had been marked out before us. Our support crew had marked them out, so they cut through the trees and they went a long run. I actually met one of your somebody that listened to your last interview I had with you before the Ramsays, and he met me at the bottom of the climb.
Oh, really?
I actually don't remember his name now, but he's commented on my Strava post to say that it was him that spoke to me. But he was an older guy, nice enough guy. But I'll just apologise because he might be listening again. And he was very talkative. And he was. I just never had much to say at that point. I was in my last mile.
Hardly surprised.
I wasn't very chatty, and he was just kept talking, and I wanted just to tell him to do one. And it was a nice guy, but I was just I wanted to just get finished.
Get it done.
So I says, like, I'm sorry, I'm not much chat, but so sorry if you're listening. It was I appreciated it, but just I think he had a can of beer on him, and I said, I'm looking forward to getting a drink, and he says, do you want one of these? So but I kindly refused and carried on.
So 23 and a half hours and 97.5 kilometres with 8,600 metres of positive ascent.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, I thought, see, if you'd only done another 250 metres, you would have been Everesting.
Oh no! I only I knew that.
Get yourself back out there.
I know. I was going to say, only I knew that. I don't know if I would have been back out and done it, but yeah. I know it's a lot of. It's when you come across the line. I think before I had done the challenge, I would my ultimate goal was to finish, but to top it off and icing on the cake was probably to get under 23 hours. That's what I really wanted to do, but it all changed after I'd finished. Even though that I think that it was. I think in an ideal world, I might not. You can't plan for things to happen. Some things go wrong. Some things play in no favour with the weather. It was a reminder of that things could go right, things could go wrong, and things did go in both ways. So I think I was just glad to finish and make that list.
When you do, with a bad injury, an ankle injury after 6 Monroes, to complete it that's good going. I mean, that's worth more than half an hour.
Definitely. Yeah, no, I was over the moon, and that's it. I think it's. I was just over the moon in the end to get it done and get finished and make Charlie's list of completers.
So, how's the body feeling now?
Pretty good. The DOMs are starting to settle down. I'm moving on the stairs, up and down the stairs pretty well, but my ankle's beating up badly. I'm just hoping that I'm going to let it settle down, ice it and stuff like that. I'm not really doing much. I'm trying to do as little as I possibly can, but moving on it. But hoping that there's no any kind of damage or anything in there, that it's maybe just it's maybe badly sprained. I'm hoping no, but ideally I wouldn't suggest to run another 18 Monroes on it, but I had to do it. So
it's not the best rehab.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I'm hoping that there's no any kind of long term that's going to set me out for a while. So, but apart from that, like then I had sweats. So the night after I finished, we finished that night and we stayed in Fort William, and my wife had woke up like soaking wet, like saying, "Oh no," and she goes, "I forgot about these because I've done these 24-hour events before, where I have the sweats for days after it, and my body's just going to do it through different modes, and this was no different. I was waking up like just covered in sweat, and today was the same. So yeah, I'm just trying to get through that point.
And energy, appetite, everything else is coming round, or are you still just feeling done in?
Yeah, I'm eating plenty. I'm just I think I'm eating well. I'm constantly eating. Just sometimes a wee bit breathless and stuff like that. But again, I remember feeling stuff like this before. Just the fact that you're so up and down and anxious over some of the times over the 24 hours. And so I think just trying to just relax and have a wee bit of time off and just make the most of it. So yeah, that's about it.
So, just before we wrap up, we spoke last week, not on here, we spoke between ourselves about your next challenge. Do you want to reveal that now, or are we going to keep it a secret?
I think I'll keep it a secret just now because I would have loved, it just shows you how much these things take out. Yeah, I just maybe didn't think it was going to take out quite as much as it did. So I think I'm going to come back and we'll come back and talk about the next one later on.
Good decision.
But yeah, definitely got other things planned, and I love pushing my body and to the limits and stuff like that. And I love these kind of challenges, like long stuff, as you know, that I'm just going to have a wee break now and just rest up and happy when I heal up to support a few guys if they need it. If it first happens again, and help other people do similar stuff. And yeah, but in the meantime, just get some rest and hopefully heal up, and then I can get into the next challenge.
Well, you've certainly earned that rest, so congratulations. And
thanks.
Once you've recovered, we'll talk about this new challenge then.
Yep. Brilliant.
Thanks a million.
Thank you.